this is from Udi this morning. It jumped into my timeline, so of course I had to retweet it under my ETH is dead kind of like thread that I'm compiling here. He says Bitcoin for high-end luxury digital collectibles, of course, because wizards, and Solana for day-to-day degeneracy. Ethereum for what? Mental illness? Question mark. That's a taste of the narrative right now.
Thank
It's
you,
basically
Udi.
Bitcoin, and you got Solana, and then Ethereum is kind of crushed in the middle. It's not just Udi. It's and people like Ryan Selkis and his predictions are like, hey, Ethereum is getting squeezed between Bitcoin and Solana right now. These fast high TPS chains. The folks at Van Eck said something similar. That seems to be the narrative. What's your take on all this discussion so far, Jordi?
Yeah, so last time I was on was actually around the merge, and I would say I was a year early. Um, exactly what I was saying was that Ethereum has a huge problem. It's stuck in the middle. You have Bitcoin as like the better hard money on the one side, and then you have, the cheaper chains, kind of faster chains on the user side. So if you go back literally 1 year ago, this was like very laid out. The good news is I've kind of like taken like a much more positive tone in terms of where we are right now. So going forward, if we look at this in a year from now, there's a couple like very positive things that I see about Ethereum right now, apart from the fact that everyone's already capitulated and the whole timeline is just crying about underperformance. But that aside, so we have seen this play out, but ultimately, like in my mind, Ethereum has a few like massive things going for it. One, it's already in that sort of top two breakaway zone where it is an institutional asset. It will get an ETF. People can like legitimately treat it as, a Lindy asset. And that's massive. That's huge. Like it's hard to underestimate how big that is. I think what's happened to Ethereum lately is we've had like Celsius selling. This has apparently been going on daily, like thousands of ETH are just kind of being sold off. And I completely agree with Anthony. Like price in the short term just dictates that's the narrative, right? So it's underperforming because there's more sell pressure. But in the meantime, soon enough you will have Bitcoin sell pressure because you do have government coins, and you will have ongoing Solana sell pressure. And here's like the key thing I want to get to. Ethereum is not base money in my mind, but it is community money. And it is the best community money because it is very widely distributed. There's no VC unlocks going to be going on for the next 5 years. If you look at Solana, March 2025, that's the reason why I don't hold any Solana, because I'm not going to play around the March 2025, like, a huge unlock that's happening. Ethereum doesn't have that. So as a community money, and we can get into that later, I think Ethereum is fantastic.
Well, unpack that definition, Jordy. You said base money versus community money. Why isn't ETH base money, and why is it more community money?
Yeah, I mean, so like me and Michael have gone into this in the past, but so I think that in terms of the gold narrative, Bitcoin has the storyline. It was what was created for this purpose. It's just that it's like if you're a Christian, you understand like the power of like this immaculate conception, right? Ethereum is the first smart contract money. It is kind of based around activity and socialness. Bitcoin, if nobody uses it and it just kind of sits there, it still kind of works. Ethereum requires, the innovation and the apps and everything else, community. It really needs it. And being the first community money that doesn't have unlocks, it's a new form of money. It's not something it's not easy to do when you have fiat, because fiat is within a geographic zone. This is like an internet money. So it's a little bit different. It's not as pure as like a base money, but it's very powerful as well.
I sometimes wonder about that definition, whether base money is just scaled up community money, and your community becomes like a whole bunch of institutions and governments and
The club.
bankers in that way. But I'm curious, actually, Jordy, and this is a quick sidetrack. We'll get back on Ethereum in a second. I'm just curious. Do you think that other layer one tokens, essentially currencies, cryptocurrencies, are contenders to become community money as well? Is that just a path that maybe Solana is going to go down, or other chains beyond Ethereum are going to go down?
Yeah, they can. I think the characteristics, and this is like so early, and no one talks about this, and I think over the next years we'll have more people talk about what is good and bad community money. In my mind, the worst kind of community money is the VC money, where you just
Mm.
kind of get people dumping on you, for years every month. That's really bad. So that's a huge thing. And with Solana specifically, you know, there is a community aspect, clearly. Like these people have gone through a lot, and it's like this like phoenix rising, and so it has this community buzz. But even Anatoly himself, he says, if you look at his tweets recently, he says, I don't even want Solana to be in the top 99 coins. I would just want apps to be there. Solana is kind of can be like number 100. It's not meant to be money. He's kind of like talking long term, maybe it'll accrue some value, but the fees are low. It's meant to be used as a platform. And in my mind, it's sort of like a meme coin, and people get very upset in the Solana community when I say Sol is a meme coin. But it is. It's just a better kind of version of Bonk because it's kind of more widely distributed.
No, you're making everyone mad, Jordi. Stop.
No, because the founder is not saying it's money.
Yeah,
so it's not on the left side, and there's no fee accrual. You know, at least for the next 10 years. Like, you know, we'll see what kind of stuff comes up in 10 years. But so it's not money, right?
It was. I was talking to Anatoly earlier this week, a couple days ago, and it was interesting. We talked about Sol as the unit of account, which he just had no interest in, and he was actually like inviting ETH to be the money inside of Solana, not enshrining Ether above any other like unit of account. It could be BTC, it could be ETH, it could be USDC. But he was like, yeah, sure, just like come in. Is like other things can be money on Solana, and it's like that. To my mental model doesn't compute with that for like layer one chain. So it's just such an interesting found layer one philosophy of how these systems are built.
I mean, Cosmos tried that too. I remember when Cosmos was going down that path.
For sure.
So I want to, I was eventually going to build to this as well, but Jordi, it's interesting because I also sort of saw that as a potential issue for ETH going into 2024 about this, like trying to compete with Bitcoin. And maybe to say the slightly more negative part, but build to the positive going forward is I've never liked the ultrasound money meme. And the reason I never liked it is because I feel like Bitcoin won that spot. And if you talk to people in TradFi, it's just very clearly like, okay, Bitcoin is this sort of money thing. But you know, if you look at money or talk to people in TradFi that study money, you'll find that there are many different types of money that exist out there, and it's actually very difficult to even define what money is. So even within the US, we have this sort of definition of M0, M1, M2, and there are different types of money for people and banks and other sovereigns, and it depends where you deposit that money. Is it in the US? Or is it, do you deposit it outside of the US, and is it a euro dollar? And it gets actually, like, the more you look at it, the more complicated it actually gets. And there are different philosophies around money as well. And because Bitcoin was the first essentially app chain that tried to be money, it was based off a very specific philosophy of money, which is Austrian economics. And we all got inculcated by this idea of sound money. And that's the only way to protect your wealth, right? And everyone in crypto has seen the chart of the dollar going down over time, and 98% of your wealth got destroyed if you held dollars. Well, there was actually another way to protect your wealth over that time. It was better than holding gold. It's called staking your dollars. That's bonds, right? That's yield-bearing money. And yield-bearing money actually outperforms gold. Bonds are a much larger asset class than gold. And actually, most people in TradFi don't own gold because it has this massive mental hang-up with people that it's not productive, right? If you're a gold bug and you've tried to talk to people about getting gold in their portfolio, you've heard this over and over. It's not a productive asset.
Those are the people that keep saying gold is just a meme, right?
Yeah. It's a barbarous relic, is what Paul Tudor Jones calls it, right? And it's a very specific type of person that wants to hold it and trade it over a long period of time. And it's actually a limited market size. What is an extremely large market is the market for yield-bearing money. And that is where I've always seen ETH sitting and having an extremely unique and very interesting advantage.
Internet bond, Mike, you like that meme?
Yeah, I love the internet bond meme. I love that meme. I was like, this makes so much sense to me. And ETH has these really, all of these L1s, we created this new commodity called block space. And we're still figuring out which properties of this created block space make sense for which use cases. But I've always seen ETH as kind of like, it's more useful than Bitcoin, right? We haven't tried to like make it so useless that it can only be this hard form of money. It's not as performant maybe as something like Solana, but it sits at this very interesting intersection where it's still a monetary money-like asset, but it can do more things, specifically be productive and get yield. And that to me is like a very interesting niche that I would love to see. It's not even a niche, it's the largest market in the world.
To continue leveling up your crypto game, then you need to get on the Bankless newsletter. It's the world's most popular crypto email and is completely free. Just click below to sign up.